Every life is built upon a foundation of routines, the familiar cadences that offer a sense of security and control. For Sarah Jenkins, a driven and loving young woman, her Tuesday and Thursday evening ritual of driving home from work parking in the illuminated concrete expanse of the Elm Street garage was just another comforting certainty in a life brimming with potential. She was a beacon of warmth for her family and friends, her laughter a constant melody in their world. But even the most predictable patterns hold unseen vulnerabilities, and the most public spaces can conceal the most private horrors. On one ordinary night, the mundane hum of a parking garage became a deceptive lullaby, masking the approach of an unseen malevolent force. It was a place where light fought shadows, and for Sarah, the shadows would claim victory. How could such an ordinary public act of simply parking a car lead to an absolute vanishing, leaving behind only a chilling void and a profound unanswered question? Sarah Jenkins moved through life with an admirable blend of deliberate routine and vibrant spontaneity. At 28, her journey as an aspiring architect was marked by ambition, her sharp mind often engrossed in the complex blueprints that would one day shape the city's skyline. Yet beyond the demanding hours at her downtown firm, it was the comforting cadence of her personal life that truly sustained her. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, as the office lights dimmed, Sarah followed a ritual. As dependable as the turn of the tide, she would drive her compact blue hatchback to the multi-level parking garage on Elm Street, instinctively guiding it towards her preferred spot on level 3. Her parents, Mark and Emily Jenkins, would always recall Sarah with a warmth that glowed in their memories. Emily's voice would soften. She just had this infectious laughter, the kind that could fill a room and lift every spirit. Mark, a man whose quiet demeanor belied a deep paternal pride, would emphasize Sarah's unyielding optimism. She truly believed in the good, in people. He'd reflect his gaze distant, always saw the best, no matter the circumstance. To them, their daughter represented a beacon of joy and resilience, standing on the precipice of an extraordinary future, her drive balanced by an expansive capacity for love. Chloe Davidson, Sarah's closest friend since their university days, remembered a different facet of her friend, a spirited energy that playfully defied Sarah's structured professional world. She was the one who could talk me into a midnight road trip. Chloe would recount, a wistful smile playing on her lips, or keep us up until dawn solving all the world's problems over cold coffee. Sarah was a dynamic presence, a constant source of both adventure and steadfast support, a thread woven deeply into the tapestry of Chloe's existence. Her connections were her anchors. She was a loyal companion and a cherished daughter, her vibrant essence, a reliable comfort to those she held dear. On this specific Thursday evening, as the city outside dissolved into a blur of softened streetlights, Sarah performed her customary call. It was to her mother, a brief exchange of affection, confirming her departure for home, an ordinary moment, utterly devoid of any premonition. Her drive through the familiar city arteries proceeded without incident, her thoughts likely already drifting towards the welcoming warmth of her apartment. She remained blissfully unaware of the looming menace, an insidious presence that had slipped unnoticed into the periphery of her predictable evening. As her blue hatchback ascended the curving ramps of the Elm Street garage and settled into her usual spot on level 3, the fluorescent lights above cast a cool, sterile glow. They hummed with a mechanical indifference, promising an illusion of safety, their artificial brilliance unable to penetrate the profound, escalating darkness poised to consume that very space. The familiar thrum of the garage in that chilling moment became an unwitting prelude to the violent shattering of a life full of untold promise. The chilling silence of the deserted Elm Street parking garage, just moments ago, a mundane backdrop to Sarah's routine, now warped into a stage for unimaginable terror. As Sarah Jenkins finalized securing her compact hatchback, her handbag settled habitually on her shoulder. The fluorescent hum overhead became oppressive, no longer a comforting presence. From the deep, unyielding shadow of the concrete stairwell, a figure detached itself, moving with an unnerving stealth that defied the bright, sterile lighting. There was no warning, only the sudden, violent grip that seized Sarah from behind. A muffled cry, instantly stifled, tore through the artificial quiet. Her bag dropped, its contents scattering with a soft, desperate rustle across the cold concrete. A horrifying blur of motion followed a desperate, silent battle for survival, fueled by raw, primal fear against an assailant whose strength and intent were absolute. A lone security camera, a silent sentry mounted high on a pillar, dutifully captured the indistinct silhouette of an attacker. A dark shape, it moved with ruthless efficiency against the stark white of a sedan carefully positioned on an upper level, clearly awaiting this moment. The camera, a passive observer, recorded the harrowing sequence. Sarah forced with brutal swiftness into the passenger side of the vehicle, her vibrant life abruptly consumed by the metallic shell. The doors slammed shut with a finality that echoed through the desolate space. Then the roar. The white sedan's engine sprang to life, shattering the garage's eerie calm, its sound a harsh mechanical violation. Tires shrieked in protest as the vehicle lurched backward, then forward, accelerating with frantic speed. It wound down the concrete ramps, a blur of white against the gray each turn, bringing it closer to the outside world to escape. The sound of its hasty departure lingered, fading as it burst from the garage exit and vanished into the city's intricate network of streets. Just outside, near the service entrance, Frank Peterson, a maintenance worker, was taking a late-night smoke break, the glow of his cigarette a solitary pinprick in the urban night. He heard the sudden, frantic acceleration, a sound jarringly out of place in the typically quiet late hours. He glanced up, catching a fleeting glimpse of a stark white sedan, its taillights rapidly disappearing into the labyrinthine maze of city blocks. Frank frowned, muttering about reckless drivers, and returned to his cigarette, dismissing the incident as mere late-night carelessness. He remained unaware, a passing witness to a chilling prelude that he had just glimpsed, the final, terrifying seconds of Sarah Jenkins' presence in the public eye. An abduction that even then was tearing a family apart and silently launching a desperate search. The city, in its vast indifference, swallowed the white sedan and its captive whole, leaving behind only the chilling void of Sarah's sudden absence. The first rays of dawn brought not the comforting glow of a new day, but a cold, creeping dread into the Jenkins household. Emily woke with an unsettling lightness, a quiet alarm bell tolling in her mind. Sarah hadn't returned home. Her daughter, meticulous in her habits, never missed a check-in. A quick glance at the clock confirmed the late hour. Emily tried Sarah's phone, her heart already thrumming an erratic beat. It rang once, then twice, before switching to voicemail, a cold, impersonal signal that magnified her deepening unease. Mark, stirred by his wife's restlessness, soon joined her, their initial concern a quiet hum beneath the surface of their morning, quickly spiraling into a frantic panic. Desperate calls, followed a litany of unanswered rings and increasingly strained voicemails. Chloe, Sarah's best friend, answered with sleepy confusion that swiftly curdled into shared dread. She hadn't seen or heard from Sarah since their last text. Sarah's colleagues at the architectural firm confirmed her timely departure the previous evening. Every friend, every possible contact point, yielded the same chilling uniform answer. No one had seen Sarah since she left work. The silence from her phone, once merely frustrating, now felt like a hollow, haunting void. The realization settled in with the crushing weight of cold lead. Sarah was truly missing. It was Mark, his voice thick with a burgeoning dread he fought desperately to suppress, who finally made the first agonizing call to 911. The dispatcher's calm, practiced questions offered a stark contrast to the raw, unraveling fear evident in his strained answers. Police arrived at the Jenkins' quiet suburban home shortly after their initial composed presence, swiftly replaced by grim resolve as they listened to the family's fragmented account. A rapid check confirmed Sarah's compact hatchback was still registered at the Elm Street parking garage, untouched, a digital trace terminating abruptly where a vibrant life should have carried on. Detectives moved swiftly to the parking garage. The sight of Sarah's abandoned blue hatchback, sitting neatly in its usual spot on level 3, confirmed their worst fears with brutal clarity. It was an eerie, sterile tableau. The car, a silent witness, offered no immediate answers. Inside her briefcase rested innocuously on the passenger seat an emblem of her professional life left behind. But her purse and keys, her essential means of access and identity, were chillingly absent. The scene itself felt unnervingly undisturbed, almost too quiet, too clean for the violence that had transpired. Then Detective Ramirez, conducting a meticulous sweep of the immediate vicinity around the driver's side door, stooped low. Almost imperceptibly, nestled on the cold concrete just inches from where Sarah would have stood, lay a single, delicate silver earring. It was a small, ornate piece, an heirloom given to Sarah by her beloved grandmother, instantly recognizable to Emily, who arrived at the scene, her face a mask of profound sorrow. The earring's presence spoke volumes, a silent testament to violation amidst the sterile quiet. It was not merely a lost trinket. It was a stark testament to a struggle, an undeniable mark of physical trespass. It laid bare the chilling reality Sarah had not left by choice. This small, precious object, so intimately connected to Sarah's identity, became the first heartbreaking piece of evidence, transforming a baffling disappearance into a suspected abduction and plunging the Jenkins family into an unfathomable chasm of terror and uncertainty. The Oak Haven Police Department reacted with a speed fueled not merely by standard operating procedure, but by a raw, profound necessity. The abduction call, intensely corroborated by the horrifying discovery of Sarah Jenkins' lone cherished earring, galvanized the entire force into immediate, concentrated action. The stakes were impossibly high, a relentless clock already ticking. Leading the investigative charge were two figures who personified the precinct's unwavering commitment: Detective Miles Corbin and his partner, Detective Elena Rice. Corbin, a man whose grizzled exterior and perpetually furrowed brow spoke of years spent confronting humanity's darkest corners, possessed a mind as sharp and methodical as a surgeon's scalpel. His movements were precise, his gaze methane. Beside him, Detective Raya's younger but equally astute complemented his experience with a keen eye for detail and an intuitive grasp of human behavior. Her professionalism offered a calm, steady counterpoint to the controlled chaos that now enveloped them. Together they navigated the rapidly unfolding scene, with a shared, unspoken determination, their focus singular and unwavering. The Elm Street parking garage, once an innocuous concrete structure, was now a frenetic hub of activity. Uniformed officers swiftly established a wide perimeter sealing off entry and exit points, their presence a stark barrier against the mundane world beyond. Forensic specialists clad in sterile white suits swarmed Level 3. Their tools glinted under the harsh artificial lights as they meticulously scoured every inch for trace evidence. Each crack in the concrete, every stray fiber, every minute impression was now a potential clue, meticulously photographed, cataloged, and collected. The garage, once silent, now hummed with the low murmur of professional urgency, punctuated by clipped commands and the whir of specialized equipment. One of the first critical tasks involved locating and interviewing the maintenance worker Frank Peterson, who had reported the reckless white sedan. Detective Rise, employing a patient, almost gentle approach, carefully coaxed details from a man initially dismissive of what he'd witnessed, yet now grappling with a dawning, sickening horror. She meticulously extracted every sliver of his memory, the approximate time, the distinctive sound of the engine, the fleeting glimpse of the sedan's make and color. His once casual observation, seemingly insignificant, now held the potential to unlock a terrifying mystery. Simultaneously, dispatchers at Oak Haven headquarters broadcast an urgent "Be on the lookout" BOLO alert across the entire Tri-County area. Details: so Sarah Jenkins, her description, her last known movements were disseminated with lightning speed, alongside a precise, albeit initial description of the suspect vehicle, a stark white sedan model, and year unknown, last seen speeding from the Elm Street parking garage. Patrol units, state troopers, and neighboring jurisdictions received the bulletin. Every officer, now a critical pair of eyes in the rapidly expanding net. Time was a rapidly dwindling resource, and locating that distinctive white sedan was paramount. Detectives Corbin and Reyes worked in a relentless, synchronized rhythm, their communication concise, almost telepathic. They understood the grim statistics, the crushing reality that the first few hours in an abduction case held the most profound significance. With every tick of the clock, Sarah was pulled further into an unforgiving unknown, her chances of survival diminishing with an agonizing, precipitous decline. This pressing reality drove their every action, a grim race against an invisible assailant. Each passing moment underscored a terrifying truth. The fragile flicker of hope grew fainter, threatening to extinguish completely. The immense pressure of the timeline demanded an unwavering, relentless pursuit. The initial crime scene investigation within the Elm Street parking garage yielded a landscape of frustratingly sparse clues. Designed for sheer utility, its concrete expanses offered little in the way of forensic bounty. The sterile environment, while seemingly pristine, presented a profound challenge. The very absence of obvious signs of struggle made the act of discovery an exercise in meticulous patience. Forensic technicians painstakingly processed Sarah's abandoned hatchback and its immediate surroundings, but beyond the heartbreaking earring, the hard, unyielding surfaces seemed to cling stubbornly to their secrets. Yet amidst this daunting scarcity, Detective Elena Reyes, her observational skills honed over years, noted something unique. While surveying the precise spot where the white sedan was believed to have been parked, her gaze fixed upon a small, iridescent puddle of leaked oil. Within its viscous sheen, almost imperceptibly, was a faint but distinct tire tread impression. It was no common pattern. Its grooves appeared deep, almost deliberately crafted, suggesting a bespoke design or an unusual wear signature, what one investigator would later describe as possessing an artisanal quality. The subtle imprint, carefully photographed and cast, became the first tangible physical lead. Concurrently, in a dedicated forensic lab, technicians embarked on the arduous task of scrutinizing hours of grainy security footage from the parking garage and surrounding areas. It was a mind-numbing process, watching endless loops of vehicles searching for any anomaly. Deep within this pixelated labyrinth, a diligent analyst made a critical observation. Reviewing footage from an adjacent level, a camera's wide angle captured a fleeting, almost imperceptible reflection. It shimmered briefly in the highly polished chrome bumper of a dark sedan parked opposite the suspect's alleged location. The reflection, though distorted, offered a brief flash of the white sedan's rear. Under careful magnification and digital enhancement, a small, distinctive circular dent became visible, positioned just above the passenger side taillight. It was a subtle imperfection, easily missed by the casual eye, yet now it stood out with piercing clarity. These tiny fragments of evidence, the unique tire tread, the elusive reflection of a specific dent, seemingly insignificant on their own, now coalesced. They became the first tangible whispers from the silent concrete, breaking through the overwhelming featurelessness of the unknown. They offered more than just isolated details. They provided a nascent direction, a slender thread for the investigators to pull, giving a fledgling shape to the spectral white sedan and its unseen driver in an otherwise formless landscape of questions and agonizing uncertainty. For the first time, the investigation had a discernible path forward, however faint. Days bled into agonizing nights, each sunrise for the Jenkins family, a fresh searing wound, each sunset deepening their crushing despair. The search for Sarah escalated relentlessly, sweeping from the familiar confines of Oak Haven across the sprawling, densely wooded expanses of neighboring counties. Hundreds of volunteers, galvanized by a shared sense of humanity and desperate hope, tirelessly combed every trail, every field, their calls for Sarah echoing through the quiet forests. Posters bearing Sarah's radiant smile became ubiquitous, plastered on every lamppost and storefront, each one a silent, poignant plea for her return, a constant, heartbreaking reminder of her agonizing absence. Then, a week into the intensified search, the unspeakable occurred. A hiker venturing off a secluded, rarely used trail, nearly 50 miles north of Oak Haven, stumbled upon a sight that would forever scar his memory. Call, terse and gravely delivered, reached Detective Corbin's desk. As he listened, his face already etched with the lines of weary experience, hardened further, the information striking him with the force of a blunt impact, confirming his darkest, most chilling premonition. He gripped the phone, knuckles white, the ensuing silence on the line almost as deafening as the news itself. The scene was remote, deliberately chosen for its profound isolation, nestled deep within a thicket of pines and dense undergrowth, a calculated attempt at concealment. The ground was uneven, thick, with decaying leaves and moist soil, the air heavy with an acrid, earthy scent and an unspoken presence of unspeakable tragedy. When Detectives Corbin and Reyes arrived, the profound weight of what had transpired hung palpably in the air, a suffocating shroud. The uniformed officers present moved with quiet, grim efficiency, their faces mirroring the sorrow that was now beginning to ripple through the wider community. Forensic teams worked with a somber, almost ritualistic precision, their movements slow and respectful. The confirmation was swift, though it stretched like an eternity for those waiting. When Sarah Jenkins' body was formally identified, the news tore through the search party, a collective ragged breath held, then released in a wave of profound guttural sorrow. The hopeful vigil maintained for days, with stubborn, desperate optimism by family, friends, and strangers alike, shattered, irrevocably replaced by a chasm of grief. For the Jenkins family, the confirmation plunged them into an abyss of sorrow, so vast it seemed to rend the very fabric of their existence. Emily Jenkins, her eyes red-rimmed and distant, later described it as a darkness that had swallowed the sun, leaving nothing but an endless night. Mark, typically a man of stoic strength, his shoulders now slumped with an unbearable burden, simply uttered, "Our world ended that day. Everything we knew, everything we hoped for, just gone." Sarah's vibrant future had been violently extinguished, leaving behind an aching void. The case, once a desperate race against time to find a missing person, now irrevocably transformed. It became an unyielding, resolute pursuit of a killer, driven by the profound need to bring justice for Sarah and her shattered family. The investigation now carried the immense weight of a life brutally taken and the unwavering determination to hold its perpetrator accountable. With the devastating, agonizing confirmation of Sarah's death, the investigation's focus sharpened from a desperate search into an unyielding hunt. Detectives Corbin and Reyes pivoted, shifting their efforts to the meticulous, often mind-numbing task of tracing Sarah's final hours, not through witness accounts or physical evidence, but through the digital breadcrumbs scattered across the city's vast surveillance network. They embarked on an odyssey through countless hours of grainy video footage, a relentless pursuit through the pixelated maze of city cameras, convenience store recordings, and traffic intersection monitors along Sarah's known route. Their eyes strained, searching for any fleeting sign of the elusive white sedan. The vehicle remained a phantom, a digital specter appearing and disappearing in blips and flashes, its identity frustratingly indistinct. It would materialize on a wide-angle shot from a bank camera, a white blur in the distance, only to vanish into the flow of traffic before its details could be discerned. Then it might briefly resurface on a private security feed from a retail store, a fleeting glint of chrome before it merged with the indistinguishable mass of cars. This elusive quality made it seem almost deliberately evasive, a silent metallic predator, adept at vanishing within the urban landscape. The breakthrough, when it finally came, arrived from an unexpected quarter. A vigilant analyst sifting through footage from a gas station camera, several blocks from the Elm Street parking garage, paused. There it was, again the white sedan captured with a newfound clarity as it pulled away from the pumps, its rear quarter squarely facing the lens. The circular dent, previously glimpsed only as a faint, distorted reflection, was now unmistakably visible, a distinct imperfection just above the passenger side taillight. But, more critically, a closer inspection of the wheel well revealed a unique aftermarket rim, its design an intricate, almost customized pattern that stood out sharply against the standard vehicle components. This was more than just another sighting. It was a crystallization of their target. This digital footprint, though still a fragmented piece of a larger puzzle, yielded an infinitely clearer image of their elusive quarry. The ghost in the pixels had finally taken solid form, moving from a vague description to a vehicle with definitive identifiable characteristics. The unique tire tread impression from the parking garage, the earlier faint reflection, and now this high-resolution capture of the dent and the aftermarket rim. All these distinct details now converged, painting a precise picture of the silent metallic hunter that had driven Sarah Jenkins into the darkness. For the first time since the devastating discovery of Sarah's body, the investigation possessed a concrete, actionable lead, transforming a seemingly insurmountable task into a tangible pursuit. The distinctive characteristics of the white sedan, the unique aftermarket rims, and the specific circular dent above the passenger side taillight catapulted to the forefront of law enforcement's urgent interest. The detailed BOLO, refined by the critical insights from the gas station footage, now circulated with an almost feverish intensity. Officers across jurisdictions were pressed to review any open cases, any prior incidents for a vehicle matching this precise profile. The net was tightening the focus, sharpening from a phantom image to a vehicle with a clear, if still elusive identity. It was a late-shift patrol officer, Daniel Reed, reviewing the updated bulletin during a quiet moment at the precinct, who experienced a jolt of recognition. A white sedan, strikingly similar in features, had been involved in a minor hit and run just weeks prior. That incident, a case of road rage with no serious injuries, had been dismissed as a routine misdemeanor. The driver had fled, but not before a partial license plate and a witness description were meticulously logged. Officer Reed, a diligent veteran, remembered the frustration of that case, a brazen disregard for the law over a simple fender bender. Now a cold prickle traced his spine. He pulled up the old incident report. The name listed as the registered owner of the white sedan was Arthur Finch. The name itself triggered a vague sense of familiarity among Oak Haven PD personnel. Finch was known for a string of petty theft charges, shoplifting, minor vandalism, and a history of disturbing, if largely unconfirmed, reports of harassment, particularly towards young women in the downtown area. He was a loner working odd jobs, drifting between temporary roles. Crucially, he owned a white sedan that, according to the archived report, fit the precise description now circulating: a late-model sedan with a notation about aftermarket rims, and serendipitously, a small dent on the rear passenger side, likely sustained during a previous unreported incident. Detectives Corbin and Reyes received the lead from Officer Reed with a quiet, intense urgency. A deeper background check into Arthur Finch was initiated immediately. The digital dossier that began to assemble painted a chilling picture. Finch's rap sheet, though largely for minor offenses, revealed an insidious pattern of escalating aggression, a simmering resentment just beneath the surface. His employment history was sporadic, his social ties virtually non-existent. Most disturbingly, his known residences and frequent work locations placed him within close geographical proximity to both Sarah's apartment building and, critically, the Elm Street parking garage. He had often been observed lingering in the downtown area, an unnoticed presence observing the everyday routines of others. The distinct tire impressions from the crime scene, meticulously cast, were cross-referenced with tire specifications for Finch's sedan. The unique grooves, once a mystery, now perfectly matched. The pieces began to align with terrifying precision, each fragment of evidence snapping into place. The ghost in the pixels, the whispers from the concrete, the casual observation of a maintenance worker, all now pointed unequivocally to one name. Arthur Finch. The familiar shadow had finally been drawn into the unforgiving light of a homicide investigation. A predatory presence, long lurking in the periphery, was about to be unmasked. Arthur Finch entered the Oakhaven Police Department's interrogation room under the pretext of his prior hit-and-run incident, a seemingly minor traffic infraction that now served as a convenient entry point. He sauntered in an air of nonchalant arrogance about him, his expression perfectly calm, a practiced mask of indifference. He feigned complete ignorance regarding Sarah Jenkins, dismissing her name as unfamiliar, his demeanor suggesting a man with absolutely nothing to hide. Detective Corbin initiated the questioning, his voice low and even employing a non-threatening rapport-building approach. The initial conversation revolved around the fender bender, allowing Corbin to subtly gauge Finch's baseline demeanor, to observe the minute tics and tells that might emerge under pressure. Finch maintained his cooperative facade, his answers smooth, if a little too glib. He denied any involvement in anything more serious, claiming he'd been home that night, a solitary evening spent watching television. His story for a brief period seemed airtight, an insulated bubble of self-proclaimed innocence. But the detectives were not simply there for a hit and run. With a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the conversation, Detective Rise, her gaze unwavering, introduced the first delicate threads that would begin to unravel Finch's meticulously constructed narrative. She spoke of the Elm Street parking garage, then casually mentioned the unique tire impressions found on level 3. Finch's eyes, previously steady, darted almost imperceptibly towards the two-way mirror, then quickly back to Rise. A subtle a fleeting crack in his composure. His answers became slightly more evasive, a barely perceptible hesitation, before responding, his confidence beginning to waver under the sustained quiet pressure. The pressure intensified as Reyes continued, her voice calm but firm, a steady hand tightening the noose. She then brought up the distinctive circular dent on the white sedan's rear, a detail known only to a select few and specific to the suspect vehicle. Finch shifted in his seat, his arms crossing, then uncrossing, a small bead of sweat forming on his temple, despite the cool temperature of the room. The knot of his story, once so tightly bound, was perceptibly beginning to fray. His denials grew slightly louder, his explanations marginally less coherent, tinged with a rising desperation. Finally, the detectives dropped the pretense entirely. Detective Corbin leaned forward, his voice a low, gravelly rumble cutting through Finch's flimsy defenses with the force of a cold hammer. He explicitly mentioned Sarah Jenkins, her abduction, and the grim discovery of her body. In that moment, Finch's carefully crafted facade shattered completely. His calmed dissolved into agitated denials, his voice rising sharply in defensive protestations. He stammered, attempting to deflect blame, to point fingers elsewhere, his earlier nonchalance completely gone, replaced by a raw, exposed hostility. "I don't know who did that," he almost shouted, his denial laced with a desperation that belied his words. The transformation was stark, a chilling revelation. The detectives exchanged a knowing glance. They'd seen it countless times, the moment a liar's knot, painstakingly woven, finally gave way under the relentless weight of truth. They knew with an absolute chilling certainty they had their man. Even if Arthur Finch wouldn't admit it yet, the interrogation had stripped away his mask, revealing the predatory darkness beneath and sealing his fate. The psychological chess match had reached its critical, decisive turning point. The interrogation of Arthur Finch persisted for hours, a grueling psychological chess match played across a sterile table. Though his initial composure had shattered, Finch remained stubbornly unwilling to offer a full confession. Instead, as the relentless questioning chipped away at his denials, he eventually began to weave an elaborate, inconsistent alibi. He admitted to being near the Elm Street parking garage that fateful evening, but claimed it was merely a coincidence, asserting he had seen nothing despite lingering in the vicinity. This partial admission, riddled with contradictions, proved to be his undoing, serving as a critical fracture in his defense. His shifting narrative, rather than protecting him, only invited closer scrutiny from a police force, now armed with a growing arsenal of physical evidence. Finch's white sedan, impounded shortly after his questioning, provided detectives with the opportunity to conduct a thorough forensic examination. The results were conclusive. The distinctive tire treads from the Elm Street parking garage, meticulously photographed and cast, were definitively matched to the tires on Finch's vehicle. The unique grooves, once a singular identifier, now irrevocably sealed his presence at the crime scene. Further microscopic analysis yielded even more damning evidence. Forensic technicians, painstakingly examining Sarah Jenkins' clothing, discovered a single microscopic synthetic fiber. It was a minuscule strand, barely visible to the naked eye, yet, through advanced scientific scrutiny, it was definitively linked to the upholstery fabric within Finch's white sedan. It stood as a silent, irrefutable witness, bridging the gap between victim and perpetrator with objective certainty. Beyond the physical, the digital realm also closed in around Finch. Detectives had obtained a warrant for his cell phone records, and the subsequent analysis of cell tower data provided a chilling, incontrovertible timeline. Finch's phone was not only placed squarely within the vicinity of the Elm Street parking garage at the precise time of Sarah's abduction, but it also pinged off towers in the remote northern area where Sarah's body was later discovered. The digital breadcrumbs, once merely guiding the investigation, now formed an ironclad chain of custody, placing Finch at both critical locations of the crime. Arthur Finch's carefully constructed web of lies, born of arrogance and desperation, now collapsed entirely under the insurmountable weight of this irrefutable scientific truth. There was no denying the forensic matches, no rationalizing the precise cell phone pings. The evidence painted a clear, unyielding picture of his involvement, leaving no room for doubt. Armed with this robust, undeniable case, the prosecution team, led by District Attorney Eleanor Vance, began the meticulous process of preparing for trial. Every piece of evidence, from the chilling forensic reports to the precise digital timelines and the fragmented admissions from the interrogation, was meticulously cataloged, analyzed, and understood. The goal was to present a narrative so cohesive and compelling that no jury could escape its gravity. The investigators had found their killer, and now the legal system would seek to deliver justice for Sarah Jenkins. The relentless pursuit of truth had succeeded, transforming whispers from the concrete into an unbreakable web of evidence. The trial of Arthur Finch seized Oak Haven, a community unified not merely by shared geography, but by an pervasive, aching demand for justice. The courthouse, typically a place of measured decorum, transformed into a crucible where the raw, searing grief of Sarah Jenkins' family collided with the cold, intricate machinery of the legal system. Every day, Emily and Mark Jenkins occupied the front row, their faces etched with an enduring sorrow that seemed to defy time, yet also hardened by a fierce, unyielding determination to see justice served. They sat silent witnesses, absorbing every word, every agonizing detail. Chloe Davidson, Sarah's best friend, delivered tearful testimony that painted a vivid, heartbreaking portrait of the friend snatched away. Her voice, thick with emotion, cracked as she recounted Sarah's vibrant dreams, her infectious spirit, and the shared plans for a future that would now never materialize. She defined Sarah not by her tragic end, but by the richness of her life, a powerful human counterpoint to the clinical evidence that followed. The prosecution, led by the formidable District Attorney Eleanor Vance, systematically presented the overwhelming evidence, building their case brick by meticulous brick. Detailed forensic reports, filled with scientific precision, illuminated the unique tire treads matching Finch's sedan and the microscopic fiber linking his vehicle directly to Sarah. The chilling security footage, digitally enhanced, showed the indistinct but undeniable abduction from the parking garage, followed by the breakthrough gas station footage revealing the dented white sedan and its unique rims. Irrefutable DNA evidence, a silent, powerful witness, placed Finch at the scene of the crime and definitively linked him to Sarah. With surgical precision, Vance meticulously unraveled Finch's deceitful, inconsistent alibis, exposing his lies for the calculated manipulations they were. Arthur Finch, now stripped of his earlier arrogant facade, sat at the defense table. His demeanor shifted between a stoic, almost defiant silence and moments of sneering contempt aimed at the prosecution. He maintained a silent denial, his face a mask of carefully controlled indifference that cracked only occasionally. His defense attorney, a seasoned public defender named Robert Sterling, mounted a vigorous, if challenging, defense. Sterling attempted to cast doubt on the investigation, suggesting potential police bias, questioning the chain of custody for certain evidence, and arguing that the entire case was built solely on circumstantial evidence. He painted a picture of an overzealous police department eager to close a high-profile case. However, the sheer volume and precision of the prosecution's evidence proved formidable, an unbreakable web meticulously constructed by detectives Corbin and Reyes. Expert witnesses, from forensic scientists to digital analysts, testified with unwavering certainty, each piece of their testimony reinforcing the last. The emotional toll on everyone involved was palpable. For the jury, it was a harrowing journey through the darkest corners of human depravity. For the Jenkins family, it was a daily reliving of their greatest nightmare, a constant, brutal reminder of the profound human cost of the crime that had stolen their daughter. The courtroom stood as a solemn arena where the pursuit of justice for Sarah Jenkins played out under the unblinking eyes of a grieving community. After weeks of harrowing testimony, of intricate legal maneuverings, and the crushing weight of human suffering laid bare, the jury returned. The packed courtroom, which had collectively held its breath through every agonizing detail, every forensic revelation, every tearful memory, now stilled to an almost sacred silence. When the foreperson finally read the verdict, the words resonated with a profound, undeniable finality: guilty on all counts. A collective gasp, a spontaneous, deeply felt exhalation of relief, swept through the gallery, quickly followed by the quiet, ragged sobs of those who had longed for this moment. The Jenkins family, though indelibly fractured by the brutal loss of their daughter, found a fragile measure of solace in the pronouncement. Emily's hand instinctively found marks, their fingers intertwining in a shared moment of bittersweet vindication. This judgment would never restore Sarah, but it was an acknowledgement, a powerful declaration that her life had mattered and her killer would be held accountable. The arduous path to justice had at last culminated. During the victim impact statements, the raw emotional core of the story surged to the forefront once more. Emily Jenkins, her face streaked with tears, but her jaw set with an almost terrifying resolve, approached the podium. Her voice trembled at first, a fragile instrument of profound grief, but as she fixed her gaze directly upon Arthur Finch, who sat unmoving at the defense table, her voice gained a steel-like resonance. She spoke not of hatred, but of the boundless love for her daughter, of the vibrant future violently stolen, of the gaping wound left in their lives. Then, with an unwavering intensity that defied her trembling hands, she delivered her final damning statement, her words echoing the deepest human desire for ultimate accountability. Looking directly into Finch's eyes, Emily declared Arthur Finch must never be allowed to walk the earth as a free person. Your darkness will now consume you, not another innocent soul. It was a powerful, unflinching testament, a demand for permanent incapacitation that spoke for every grieving heart in the room. The judge, his voice heavy with the solemnity of the moment, then delivered the sentence. Arthur Finch, convicted on all charges, was handed down a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The pronouncement ensured that the predatory shadow he had cast over Sarah Jenkins, and indeed over the community of Oak Haven, would never again fall upon another innocent life. He would live out his days confined, a permanent testament to the unforgivable crime he had committed. Sarah Jenkins' memory, though tragically cut short, transcended her violent end. Her vibrant spirit, brutally extinguished, resonated not as a symbol of victimhood, but as a testament to the enduring love of her family and the tenacious drive for accountability. Her essence lived on through the unbreakable bond shared by her parents and friends, through every photograph that captured her radiant smile, and through the tireless dedication of detectives Corbin and Reyes. These two investigators had walked through the deepest shadows of depravity, followed the faintest whispers, and meticulously unraveled a liar's knot to illuminate Sarah's truth. Their methodical pursuit ensured that even in the face of such profound evil, justice could and would ultimately prevail. The community of Oak Haven, while forever scarred by the brutal loss and the chilling realization of the darkness that had touched their lives, slowly began the arduous, painstaking process of healing. They were bound together by the shared memory of a young woman taken too soon, and by the collective unyielding quest for what was right that had finally triumphed. The echoes of that justice, though unable to erase the pain, offered a foundational stone upon which a fragile, renewed sense of security could begin to be built. In the quiet aftermath, the pursuit of truth illuminated the darkest corners, proving that even in profound loss, justice can cast its own enduring light. If you're compelled by the relentless pursuit that pulls truth from the deepest shadows, subscribe to Shadow Files for more investigations that seek justice. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Files and hit the notification bell.